Maybe personally tell Potato and AP.
Okay, so this is how it's gonna go. Brownie's reading over there. I'm reading over here. You're just basically going to hear us scream unintelligible words at each other as we progress. And that will be the live stream. I'm happy for those of you who join us. I'm happy for those of you who don't and decide to save us. You will, the entire time, either be looking at the couch or the ceiling. We'll go with ceiling for now. I'm not going to tell them personally because I'm not like that. Okay, let's go. It's going to be a quiet streamish, sorry. I should mention, by the way, that the flipping teaser art for this was labeled Antebellum, and this one's titled All In, and it showed PJ, and I'm... Should we read it out loud instead of reading it solo? Okay. Because I think we're at the same part. Yeah. There's only so many excuses he could contrive. Oh, okay. PJ could feel Jordan growing antsy the longer they stood in the alley. He decided to stop torturing the man and stepped up to the door. After all Jordan had done and all he had risked for him, the least he could do to return the favor, spoilers by the way, was make this quick. Never mind the fact that he killed for the man, killed the Godfather no less, given up on his old way of life. He shook himself. Dwelling on that now was pointless. He had to focus. The faster he got through this, the sooner he could move. If his mind and heart would allow him anyway. Just had to... Maybe? I think we're back. Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry, you guys missed like half the chapter. Not really. We're like
You
not
missed
even
my
done.
amazing commentary.
You missed some of the gorgeous commentary. Sorry Dina Van, not gonna attempt it. Anyway, back to the, I'm not gonna go back. Should we read it out loud now, if we've taken a break, or?
What do
This
you
is
mean?
gonna take forever if we read it out loud.
I think we should keep. Unless you don't want to.
That'd be good, because it keeps just dying. And it's acting weird.
Do you want to do it on my laptop?
Oh, is it because it has too bad of a connection? Hold on. It's been unconnecting. Okay, that might work for a bit. Okay. How are you doing? Ethan's tone was as chipper as his expression when he gave PJ a hearty pat on the back in greeting. PJ tried not to dwell on the fact that it knocked more wind out of his tired body than it likely should have, or that if any other family member were present, Ethan would be on the floor for attacking the Godfather. Would he ever be allowed such easy amicability again? Especially with non-Italians? He huddled deeper into his coat, but tried to smile anyway. Evening, Ethan. Yeah, I finally made it out. Sorry if you were starting to worry. Nah, I knew you had some family stuff going on, so it's no big deal. Just glad to see you back. You've been getting enough sleep. Ethan was more than ready to wave off PJ's apology, but there was that concern again. PJ must have looked worse than he'd originally thought. It's getting there. I just had a loss in the family. It's still weighing on me heavily, but I'll work past it. Oh. Much of the cheer in Ethan's expression and tone simmered down to something more sympathetic. Sorry, that's gotta be rough. I don't blame you for taking so long, anyway. So long away. He reached out again, patting at PJ's shoulders in a consoling gesture. It didn't have much of an effect on PJ's mood, but he appreciated it nonetheless. But you're back now, right? Playing music always seemed to cheer you up. Maybe it'll help. PJ sighed, the weight of it crushing his lungs and his chest. He had to spit it out at some point. I'm not staying, Ethan. The loss left the family business without someone to keep tabs on it, and it's a big job. A lot of the family are relying on it for their income. You have to step up. Ethan finished for him, seeming to understand. When PJ could only bring himself to nod, Ethan continued, a ghost of his previous bright smile returning to his face. It happens. Family is important. No one here is going to have to blame you for leaving, and who knows? Maybe it's not a permanent goodbye, right? I mean, you can always stop by and visit the tiny box. There was a hopeful tinge to Ethan's trailing words, and his eyebrows quirked up. PJ had resisted the powerful urge to snort in amusement. Ethan was ever the optimist. That kind of attitude made PJ a little jealous. It would have been disastrous to host as the Godfather anyway. Though he knew it was basically a lie, he gave another nod. Maybe. I'll see what I can do. Ethan's smile blossomed back into a full-blown grin. That's all I ask. Are you at least sticking around tonight? Maybe just one more time? Wish I could, but things are already chaotic enough after the death. I have a lot of work to do. I only made time to say goodbye. That, at least, was the truth. Well then, goodbye, PJ. I hope to see you again eventually, if not soon. Like Wilford, Ethan extended his hand for PJ to shake. He took it just as gladly, though it was a little less formal than the one he'd shared with Wilford. He was going to miss the easy, light-hearted friendship. Me too. See you, Ethan. PJ let go and watched as Ethan wandered off to deal with some new patrons. The waiter shot him one more happy wave before returning to his business, and PJ couldn't help but to give the smallest of waves back. He found Dan sitting at a table in the corner with Phil. PJ didn't know how much the reporter much beyond their shared time on the stage, but he figured he may as well take advantage of the fact that he was present. He knew Phil even less, yet the man had a cheerful smile and wave in greeting as he approached. Dan, in contrast, seemed a bit focused on his drink. That, or his arms folded atop the table. There was a stormy, pensive, almost far-off expression on his face. It wasn't as if it was as if he wasn't entirely there. PJ wished he could be more concerned, but it would just be a waste of energy at this point. He wouldn't be back, and he wouldn't be around long enough to provide much consolation or assistance. Chances of encountering Dan again on the streets were about as slim as running into anyone else from the speakeasy. PJ's new life came in a cage, even if no one would dare phrase it that way. Evening. PJ hoped his greeting might shake Dan from whatever stupor he was in, but he didn't so much as blink. He felt that same pull, that desire to help, but forcefully squashed it down. Thankfully, Phil was a little more alert. Evening. Don't mind Dan. He's feeling a little down lately, you know? Phil gestured vaguely with a hand before giving Dan a light nudge with his elbow. The action was gentle, though. Clearly, he didn't want to disturb Dan, but probably knew Dan would kick himself later if he just completely ignored PJ's presence now. Dan, PJ's here. Finally, Dan seemed to shake himself a little and lifted his gaze to look at PJ. Dan appeared as exhausted as PJ felt, if not even more so. It left him internally wincing in sympathy. There were heavy bags under those dark eyes, and he was paler than usual. Maybe he was getting sick. Oh, hi. Sorry. The words were blunt and nearly devoid of emotion. PJ couldn't find it in himself to be offended by the lackluster apology or Dan's behavior. He had no idea what Phil might have been referring to, but with his hesitant words and vague gesturing. But clearly it was taking a serious toll on Dan. He'd make this quick. It's all right. I just wanted to stop by and let you know I won't be coming back to Freddy's anymore. Phil blinked and sat up a bit straighter in his seat. What? No way. Why? Dan looked a little more alive at the news, curiosity and his own brand of concern more than anything. You all right? PJ was growing very tired of that question, no matter how well-meaning it was. He resisted the urge to drag a hand down his face. Stay strong. The Godfather must always remain strong. I'm fine. It's nothing serious, I promise. Another wince on the inside. What a bold-faced lie. Just family business. I won't have time for Freddy's anymore, and I wanted to say goodbye. You've been a great bandmate all this time, and I didn't feel right to just leave you hanging. I'm sure you'll keep making jazzy music with Jack just fine without me. Dan was frowning, and Phil was pouting a little. Obviously, the news was affecting them directly. Dan was the first to speak. I see. Right. Well, good luck then. He ducked his head back down after that, marking himself finished with the conversation, and PJ felt a twinge of guilt. Phil must have noticed it on his face because his pout morphed into a reassuring smile. One of his hands shifted just enough so that his fingertips could touch against Dan's arm. He does mean it. And good luck from me, too. I'm sure you'll be successful with whatever it is you're doing. Don't give up the bass, though, all right? You're one of the best I've ever heard. It'd be a shame for the talent to go to waste. Okay, I might stop reading, but I'll still do, if you remember back in the day when we used to both read fanfictions on the same screen.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep it like that, if that's okay. Oh, no. Zombie, I give you like $10, that zombie will come in charging.
No. Before that, he's gonna run into Jack, and there's gonna be a huge falling out. Because Jack knows, remember?
Well, I know, but I like to think that Jack will just be like, oh, hey, PJ, let's pretend like I don't know. This sucks. To all 0 of my listeners, this sucks. Oh. Sorry for those of you guys who come on and have no flipping clue what's going on. We're reading silently and reacting very quietly.
Hey, Potato.
Oh. Oh no, wait.
For what though? I didn't follow.
Oh, you flipping turd. Don't think that.
I'm not there!
You're not there?
No!
Okay, but on the other hand, he is the mob boss now. Right? Mafia boss. Not the mob, the mafia, sorry. He could just be like, I make the rules now. Anyway.
But, like, you can't just switch the total motives of your group. Hey! I am right. When evening, ladies, Madam Foxglove, Miss Newton. It hurts so much to refer to Sophie that formally.
I'm down there at, you've still got your coat on.
Oh, well, technically I'm like Sophie with wariness.
Okay, if we actually have people here, I might start actually doing it again.
Very bad connection.
I've done everything I can.
Do you want me to get you some ice?
Oh, is it hot? Get me ice.
Getting ice!
Getting ice, stat!
Like I said, we can always use my laptop and stream on my channel.
You still got your coat on and everything. I see you've been wandering around the speakeasy. You're not here for the usual, are you? Little reminders of just how perceptive Madame Foxglove could be could be truly unsettling. Sometimes PJ wondered how the woman had never caught on to the fact that he'd placed a hit on not only her head, but that of her fiancé's, as to watch as her head rose in obvious alarm. Her pretty eyes were wide. What?
What do I do with it now?
Usually I put it in a bag, but that's okay.
Just open.
Wafted onto it. Her gaze
No!
dropped to the table and her hands moved to her lap. It was It was
Okay, we're still good.
I'm closing myself off, and I'm on the defense body language if he'd ever seen it. Madame Foxglove took it as a cue to carry on the conversation in Sophie's stead. Goodbye? You mean you aren't coming back? Have you grown so tired of us on our little speakeasy already, then? There was a hint of teasing in her words. In her words, but also wonder and curiosity.
Do I unplug it? That worked.
Exactly what I want. I don't put it in a flipping cup.
Everything's fine here. I'm crying and broken up about the chapter, can't you see?
That's the sound of her frozen tears. We have effects. That's the sound of the cups tinkling. That's the shifting of his coat.
More shifting coming.
More shifting. There's a long pause between this part of the conversation. What? No, that's not. Leslie, this isn't exactly what I want. PJ shot in another part of the ground. The man was simply standing with his own arms crossed. His expression was neutral, so PJ looked anxiously at his lips and continued. I want to stay. I love coming here. You know that. Family business is about to make coming here impossible for me. I'm too busy to do much of anything. He didn't miss how Sophie tensed noticeably at the word family, and felt his guts twist painfully in response. Madame Foxglove had likely taken notice to the reaction. Her eyes became a little more sharp, her posture a little more stiff. I see, that's unfortunate. But duty calls, right? I can understand that much of your situation. You'll be sorely missed here, PJ, by customers and workers alike. Are you certain there's no way you can take some time for a visit or two? PJ shook his head. He had already exhausted every possibility, every theory and strategy. Zombie wasn't having it, and now, as the Godfather, repeated absences would surely be noticed. People would get suspicious. They'd become concerned. Doubts would weasel cracks into the foundation of everything they had built and set it to crumbling. He couldn't risk it, not anymore, not for anyone. I'm afraid not. There will just be too much on my plate to handle. The family business needs all the attention I can give. A lot of people depending on me now. He huddled deeper into his coat, eyes shifting off to the side. He couldn't bear to meet those piercing blues any longer. Madame Foxglove didn't appear satisfied, not in the least. However, she was as smart as she was perceptive. She could tell where pushing and prodding would be met with a brick wall. Slowly, a smile edged onto her features, and her blue eyes softened. Well then, PJ, I suppose this is goodbye. Try to take care of yourself, and best of luck with caring to your family, too. You all have our best wishes. PJ felt his heart skip a few beats. Had his ears just been playing tricks on him? Or was he tired? Or had Madame Foxglove just put a bit of extra emphasis into the word family? No, he was just too anxious. It was making him paranoid. Surely, she hadn't a clue. Surely, if she did know, she wouldn't be sitting there politely conversing
right after
with him
coming
like
off
this.
of a K-Star binge. Was there an emphasis on the word family?
The mafia! Oh!
Magical flames.
What's happening?
Annie came by.
Oh.
I feel like that's Lowat, but I'm not really sure.
The beginning was just us screaming lightly, and then we did a really bad rendition of Antebellum where we switched the words around to make it a happy song.
And I'm on to you, Potato. It's totally, what's it called? Freaking. It's her.
It's
or
her.
them.
It's them.
I think her. I don't know. And Lowat. We're totally on to you, Potato. That against all odds and royal expectations comes together, and that Ethan's the dragon. He has to give the medals out. I'm on to you. That's
so every
just
time
me,
I hear
though.
Lowat's names, it makes me think that they're. Do you know what Lowat means?
Land.
I thought so.
It's a
I was
land.
like, that has to be a Homestuck land. Anyway, land of water and trees. That sounds like a nice land. Thank
like
you.
a
I'm
rainforest.
sure they'll all appreciate your blessing, and would appreciate it more if you were dead. His brain helpfully tacked on. PJ internally winced. Miss Newton, I don't... Sophie interrupted her, her breath quivering up from her lungs. She still hadn't looked at him, not since the glimmer of shock at his confession. She almost sounded like she was going to cry. I don't know if I want to hear it, PJ. Please, just... I'm sure there's others you need to be with. You need to be saying goodbye to. Don't feel the need to waste your time on me. PJ swore he felt his heart crushed to pieces at her words. He knew his face was crumpled, but it was impossible for him to stop or repair. It was too suffocating of a verbal blow. Sophie. The name was also past his lips before he could stop it. He wanted to reach for her, to hold her, to brush his fresh fingers at her rough cheeks and tell her everything was going to be okay. It wasn't. PJ, Mafia's gotten to the point where they're antagonizing an innocent woman now, have they? The Irish trill in that voice sent an electric jolt down PJ's spine. Jack. The one person he'd been dying and simultaneously avoiding to meet. He'd known the Irishman was around. Wilfred would have told him otherwise. However, he hadn't spied a hint of him all night, which was an equal relief and concern. Now, turning to face the voice, PJ wished Jack would have remained out of sight. Jack leant up Jack was leant up against the wall of the speakeasy, hands stuffed in his own pockets and hat brim resting low over his eyes. There was an indistinguishable expression on his face, but his eyes told all. As if the accusatory tone in his words wasn't enough, there was a seething fire in those baby blues. Where Madame Foxglove had pierced through PJ with hers, Jack's were clearly trying to set PJ aflame like a tinderbox in a forest fire. He tensed, his stomach twisting with dismay and instantaneous denial. Jordan near his side was likely gripping at his gun. No. Jack. No. I honestly don't know if I want you to call me that anymore. It's a nickname I reserve for friends, after all. Jack's word had gained a frigid edge that turned PJ's veins to ice. This couldn't be happening. Jack, what are you saying? I know I'm not going to be coming back around anymore, but isn't that a little extreme? The words stuck in his throat, his teeth, his tongue like the thickest molasses, and it was all he could do to force them out. He hadn't heard the word Jack used. He'd heard the word Jack used. Mafia. Specifically mafia. Directed at him without a hint of tease or of jape. No, only ice and venom and the splintering edge of broken trust. Still, he tried to deny it. Tried to act as if he'd misheard or hadn't heard at all. Jack gritted his teeth at PJ's attempt to play dumb, fists clenched in his pockets. He pushed himself off the wall so he could face PJ fully, with the fire still raging in his eyes. Cut the crap, Noodle. Maybe you're still skipping around, fooling everyone else in the place. You aren't sapping me. Not anymore. It was the first time Jack had called him Noodle. But it wasn't the first time Jack had called him Noodle. But never had the term been spat out with such blatant hatred and upset. It was always just light heart teasing. Like when PJ had called him Potato. To hear it used such a way, almost in a derogatory manner, simultaneously added another layer of ice to his veins that set his chest ablaze with indignant fury. Nonetheless, he tried to maintain a cool head. Not only was it a necessary Godfather trait, but the last thing he wanted to do on his final visit was get into a fight. Wilford deserved better than that. Jack, I don't know what it is you're trying to say here, but I think you should quit while you're ahead. This isn't exactly the place to... To what? Call you out on your bullshit? Ha! I think it is the perfect place for it. Let everybody know what you really are. What you've no doubt done. How can you even show your mug around here? Your heart must be given the weather a right for run for its money. Jack sneered and snarled, making no efforts to lower his volume or to subdue his tone. They were beginning to attract unwanted attention. Both Madame Foxglove were already watching raptly. Other faces were turned their way, and Ethan was peering out from across the table. Maybe if the joint was fuller, it wouldn't have been so noticeable. But there wasn't a commotion for people to follow, not even music being played as a suitable distraction. PJ felt as if they were on a stage in front of an audience, and the spotlight was turned directly upon him. Nearby, Jordan's metaphorical hackles raised, his face pinched in a tight, loathing expression focused on Jack. PJ's stomach twisted. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I don't. I know plenty. Plenty enough to know what I have to do now before I let you get away. I've kicked him booted to tatters before I let the damn Godfather walk out of that room. PJ slid his hand from his pockets to reveal a gun, similar to the one PJ and Jordan had concealed themselves. He didn't hesitate to aim the barrel directly at PJ's forehead. PJ sucked a tight breath as a flare of panic shot through him. He heard others' gasps and brief cries of shock and dismay at the room, and he had to wonder if the gun had caused them or Jack's bold accusation. Everyone knew the rumors. Old Godfather passed, new Godfather so young. Perhaps Jack had proposed this while the old Godfather... Perhaps had Jack proposed this while the old Godfather was still alive. PJ could easily laugh it off. No one would believe it. Then he'd only have the Irishman's wrath to contend with. Instead, there were whispers starting up once the initial shock wore off. Jack hadn't fired immediately, and at first PJ thought it might be because Jack was experiencing a change of heart. Having second thoughts, a soft click to his right raised those hopes to pieces. Jordan had raised his own gun and had it trained on Jack. Obviously, if Jack pulled his trigger, Jordan was going to pull his next. It was a standoff.
Never, Jack growled. We both know my trigger finger's faster. There's a chance I could bump off the both of you before you even have a shot off. For once in your damn life, don't be a blood traitor and let me put a quick end to this. You and I both know if the Godfather falls now, the Mafia will go with it. I need to end this. Jack wasn't even looking at Jordan as he spoke. His blue eyes were locked onto PJ, as if he feared, were he to glance away for a moment, his target would disappear. PJ wished he could. The whispers were still running, buzzing in his ears alongside the rapid breathing of his own heart. It wasn't the first time he'd been held at gunpoint. Definitely wouldn't be the last, but it was the first time someone he considered a friend had his finger on the trigger. Pulling his own weapon at this point would be useless. Like I said, you don't know what you're talking about. You've probably had too much to drink. Just because I'm Italian, that doesn't mean your uncle's dead. You gotta run the family business. You've been absent, supposedly dealing with family business. And your sick uncle just coincidentally, it all lines up with the mafia's happenings. You get a bodyguard, even though you never needed one before. I bet you've even got some men outside waiting for you. Am I right? Jack wasn't having it. Clearly, whatever evidence had tipped him off had also made up his mind. Sean, put the gun down. You don't want to do this. Not here, not like this. Jordan intoned, his voice calm and deathly serious. The cool intent in his eyes matched the one in Jack's, and PJ knew Jordan wouldn't hesitate to shoot if given an opening. Don't you fucking call me, you stinking traitor! Jack's voice was a vile... Ooh! It's getting intense, Dad! Traitor. Secret traitor. That's what I meant. Jack's voice was a vile hiss, and PJ thought he might shift targets for a moment. Unfortunately, Jack was smarter than that. Whether Jordan was intentionally trying to anger him or not, he wasn't going to succeed. What? I think so.
I don't think... Oh, yeah, Belle's home. And you're home. So, yeah, everyone...
Yes.
Back door too?
Yes, I locked that myself.
All the way?
All the way. I think.
Jack, he's right. Those blue eyes harder than that PJ juice. Whatever this is about, here isn't the place to handle it. There's too many innocent people around, and Wilford deserves the truth. That's what. This whole time you've been lying to him, lying to all of us, lying to me. I should have known better than to trust a dirty truth noodle. Was it all an act? Were you trying to get information or getting good with this deep into Irish territory? You've got no shame at all, haven't you? How do you sleep at night? Oh, that's right. Jack's eyes were still harder than stone, but a cruel smile curled up his lips. You don't. PJ stiffened. He could see Ethan, Wilford, Tyler, all ledging at his peripheral, all anxiously watching. Of course they wanted to jump in and dispel the tensions before anyone could get hurt. But it was too dangerous right now. There were two guns in play, and one wrong move could get someone shot. All they could do was wait, watch and wait, and listen. PJ couldn't afford to look away and take in their expressions, but he could imagine. Did they believe Jack's claims? Were they considering this evidence? Were they already looking to PJ with disgust, with hatred, with betrayal? This wasn't how the night was supposed to go down. This wasn't how things were supposed to end. Sean, last time, put away the gun before you do something you're going to regret. Either he had a strategy or he didn't trust PJ to handle this properly. Seeing as PJ was currently a ball of trembling despair, nerves, and agony, it was likely the latter. Some godfather he turned out to be. His first big challenge. The first major test of his mettle, and he could barely hold words with his antagonizer. His predecessor was probably rolling in his grave. If Zombie was present, he'd reconsider PJ being their only option. If the family could see him like this, pathetic and weak, they'd weep for the future. He was a disgrace. Jack wasn't happy about Jordan's interruptions. I said, don't call me that, Ronnie. I'm not going to swear anymore. Sorry, I've used up all my swear words for the night. He roared, the muscles in his hand, wrist, and forearm all visibly tensing. PJ swore he saw Jack's finger inch back on the trigger and held his breath. Next to him, Jordan stifled a stifled grunt. Please! Sophie. Jack, please, don't do this. Suddenly, Sophie was there, standing at PJ's side, her body half pushed between the barrel of the gun and her own. Her eyes were wide and frantic, but her expression unreadable. His heart stopped. Not here, not now, not like this. Don't do this. It doesn't have to be this way. There has to be something else, please. Desperation and uncertainty rang high in her voice. Sophie was standing up for him. Sophie was defending him. Jack had a gun pointed at PJ's face, and Sophie had leaped in the way. PJ was stunned, as were Jack and Jordan, apparently. Neither took advantage of the opportunity.
Fun fact, this isn't even the climax.
What?
This isn't even the climax.
How do you know that?
Because Potato was talking about writing the climax.
Oh.
And she's ahead.
Jack, however, was quick to shake it off and harden the expression once more. Sophie, you don't want to get in on this, trust me. Just go back to your seat. This is between us. It's got nothing to do with you, and I don't want to hurt you. Sophie was trembling where she stood with PJ, but she shook her head and stood her ground. No, I'm not moving. I won't let you do this. Not to him, and
And not to you, Jack, to yourself. I won't. PJ had never wanted to grab Sophie's shaking fingers more. He wanted to grip them tight, to pull her close to his chest and shield her from all of it. She didn't deserve to be dragged into this mess. She shouldn't be staring down the barrel of his gun for him. It would have been so much better if she'd never met PJ at all, yet here they were. She was so close, and yet she never felt so far away. Jack scowled deeply. His finger hadn't moved an inch from the trigger, nor had his aim faltered. He, too, was standing his ground. Then, if you're not going to move, I'll just have to go through you. I don't have no choice. Several things happened in that moment. PJ's heart lodged itself in his throat. Sophie drew in a gasp, frail and frightened. Jordan's body leaned forward with his gun, primed to fire. Several other bodies in the vicinity stepped forward, but hesitated. One didn't. In a flutter of skirts and cackling heels on hardwood, Madame Foxglove poised herself as elegantly between the ex-couple and the furious Irishman. Another gun was added to the frame. Another composed face stared down its target. To his credit, Jack's only reaction was to furrow his brows. Jordan was shooting Madame Foxglove wary, uncertain glances, but hadn't shifted his own aim off of Jack. They all knew who the biggest threat was in the room. Molly. Jack, I thought you knew the rules. No firearms in my speakeasy is very close to the top. No murdering in my speakeasy is another big one. No roughhousing, no brawls, no bloodshed. These are all simple requests people must follow for the privilege of resting easy inside these four walls. Currently, you're breaking one, if not two, and gunning for a third. Wade would have liked that one. Silently, Madame Foxglove longed for his presence. What a time for him to be bedridden. With all due respect, Madame Foxglove, this isn't an ordinary bar brawl. Not by a long shot. I'm trying to do all of us and the city of Boston a service. Surely you know that the Mafia would do what the Mafia would do if they found this place and pushed out the Irish. You're correct. I know quite well what would happen. However, if your claims are true, PJ has yet to oust us, and I don't see the Irish caving to their rivals anytime soon. Perhaps you should have more faith in your own people. Madame Foxglove's eyes flashed, glinting in the low light as blue clashed with blue. There was more to her words, and they both knew it. That set Jack to a grimace. The comment had cut deep. You're making a mistake. I'm certain one of us is. Madame Foxglove motioned for Sophie to draw closer, and she did so without hesitation. I, however, am confident in my choices. Are you? Her question was met with silence, but she didn't carry the subject any further. You will let us leave? You will not fire your weapon. You will take your petty disputes and thirst for vengeance off these grounds and deal with them like grown men. Or so help me, I will hunt you down and put you in the ground with your ex-godfather myself. Jack's lips pursed, but there was a newfound hesitation in his eyes. Do I make myself clear? Jack drew a breath. You're not changing my mind. Madame Foxglove's frown spoke volumes. Fine, have it your way. Sophie, stay close. We're leaving. Shifting her free arm back, Madame Foxglove let Sophie grasp it. They moved backing slowly away from Jack and the confrontation had spawned, towards the door. She shot Jordan a single glance, and in a split second, the two had somehow communicated. Gun trained on Jack well, Jordan shuffled over to PJ, taking Madame Foxglove's place. His elbow nudged at PJ's chest, and he realized they were going to the same tactic. Jack still had two guns on him. If he managed to fire one, even two shots, chances were he'd be full of lead himself. He apparently reached the same realization just a few seconds before PJ, because his eyes widened and his face flooded with indignant rage. You can't do this! Do you have any idea what you're doing? Let him get away, let him loose on the streets. He tried to have you both killed. He's going to take over the streets and stand on all your corpses to do it. And you're letting him slip right through your fingers. You'll regret this. You'll wish you'd let me shoot him. Jack's roar was near deafening as the otherwise quiet of the speakeasy. He almost looked panicked in a way, agonized. If PJ had any feeling left in his body, that sight just about snuffed it out. He had escaped with his life, but at what cost? What had he lost that night that he wasn't prepared for? Saying goodbye to a friend who would remember him fondly had twisted into some dark, damning, and positively nightmarish. Oh, they would all remember this night, but not in the way PJ had hoped. Madame Foxglove's smile was frigid and fragile. There was no warmth in her eyes or face as she coaxed Sophie into the entryway of the speakeasy. I don't host any regrets just yet, McLaughlin. Do you? Then she and Sophie were gone out of sight, with Jordan and PJ close behind. Tyler had long abandoned his station at the door, so all four were able to slip out with no issue. Further inside, they could all hear Jack release a guttural cry of frustration tinged with the barest hint of despair.
In the cold of the alley, all was silent. Eyes met, guns were stashed, and breaths drifted as puffs of icy vapor into the air. Madame Foxglove drew her coat closer to her. Sophie tucked against her side. Jordan stood protectively before PJ, staring both of them down. PJ had never felt so small. Seconds fell away like snowflakes drifting past them. It wasn't a very long stare-off between protectors, but it was enough to convey silent terms and a shaky truce. No one drew their gun again. Madame Foxglove dipped her head in a nod. Gently, she put her arm around Sophie and guided her past the men towards the end of the alley, not occupied by a waiting car. Jordan nudged PJ again, nodding his head in the opposite direction. Zombie was waiting. They shouldn't give Jack any more of an opportunity to chase after them. Still, PJ couldn't resist trying to meet Sophie's eyes as she passed. Her gaze was downcast, her face grave, and he was a sheet of skin stretched thin over a pile and wrapped up in a coat like some macabre puppet put on their skin. And just when he'd never felt further from that night. The stars were gone, their smiles had faded. Sophie's laughter was a forgotten tickle in his ear. Yet the words fell from his lips as if nothing had changed, as if it was still the beginnings of autumn, and the air was crisp and sweet, and they were a couple of young lovers with the future at their disposal. Buonanotte. Makes me think of Buonanotte, Italia.
You should do a thing for that!
I could do Buonanotte all'Italia, or I could do Little Italy.
Ooh.
Both are equally flipping good, aren't they? But Buonanotte all'Italia would be much softer.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie faltered, but only for a moment. She hurried off at a faster pace, and PJ knew the rapidly chilling warmth of his cheeks was the start of fresh tears. He felt on the verge of collapse as he forced his feet to move. Back to the car. Back to his new life and back to the family. He cried, he trembled, he'd buckled under the pressure and he'd failed crucially. Some godfather he was turning out to be. Inside Freddy's, Jack had thrown his gun to the floor in blind rage. So close, he'd been so close, and still PJ had slipped from his grasp. He had no excuse. He should have taken the shot and been done with it. Shot Marin, too, for good measure. He could have done it. He'd have easy opportunity from the moment PJ walked through the door. Yet something had held him off, made him hesitate. He kept delaying the inevitable while PJ made his rounds until he knew time was up and he had to make a move. The result of his indiscretion was disastrous. The last chance he'd have a free shot at his greatest enemy, and he'd blown it. No, he was going after them. He was going after them, and he was going to gather his men, and he was going to hunt PJ down, and he would escape Irish territory, and he wouldn't leave to see the sun. He wouldn't live to take another life. Jack's effort to snatch up his gun was derailed as Wilfred lunged forward, grabbing his arm. God damn it, Jack, stop it! Get off me, Jack roared, swinging his fist around and hitting his aggressor square in the jaw. It was pure reflex. He didn't see a face or call up a name, he just acted. You don't know half of what's going on, so don't you dare step into this. Wilfred staggered back, crashing into a table and ended up a heap on the floor. He hadn't expected Jack to hit him. Thrown him off maybe, or pull off his grip, but punched to the face? He'd groaned and turned onto his side, curled up into his knees as Jack backed up with raised fist. Something had cracked when he went down. Something wasn't right. Jack, stay away from me, Jack spat. Tyler rushed at him with a yell. Wilfred was getting hurt as spurred him on, and he was finished with watching. He was a big man, far bigger than Jack. But somehow Jack dodged him, ducking under his arm and slapping an elbow into Tyler's back. Tyler cried out and fell to one knee. Where he hosted bulk and strength, Jack dominated with speed and agility. Ethan flew forward, a chair raised up for lack of weapon or skill. Jack batted away each jab as they scrambled up around another table, putting him in Tyler's path once again. The wrestler grabbed him, trapping an arm but only one. Jack writhed into his grip, slamming the heel of his palm against Tyler's nose. The snap was audible across the whole restaurant. Wilfred cried out, struggling to his feet, an arm held tightly against his rib cage. Jack, no! Stop! Tyler released Jack, his hand going up to his nose as he ducked away, howling in pain. Blood was already spotting the floor. Just stop it! The words ripped out of Jack's jaw, sharp and raw. Let me leave. You don't understand what's happening. You can't help, okay? Jack choked out what could have been a sob as he looked over at Wilfred, still struggling to rise. The plane clear on on the man's face. Mark, Jack rasped, backing up almost to the door. I'm so sorry. Wilford raised a hand. Was he asking for help? Pleading for Jack to stop and called Jack's name. It came out as a coughing wheeze, and Wilford sank back to the floor, folding in on himself. Something wasn't right. This time the sob wasn't held back as Jack burst into the street, wiping a spatter of blood from his cheek before stumbling away. He didn't even notice he'd left his gun, or that PJ and Jordan and the ladies were all gone. His mind was a swirl of despair and apathy, emotional turmoil and deepest numbness. All he could think was of those moments, of those last few moments, throwing Wilford onto the table and hurt in those brown eyes. How Wilford couldn't even bear to stand for a full minute. He'd broken something. Jack had broken so many somethings, and he was acutely aware of the fact that they may not be fixable. Ironically, the only thing he'd wanted to break was quite still whole, and at the end of it, he'd still failed. There was no going back from this. Jack's chips were down. He'd been dealt a bad hand, and he knew one wrong call could send the whole thing up in flames.
I hate you guys. I hope you're aware that I hate you guys.
That was intense. Dang, I gotta have you guys listen to these songs real quick. We'll start with Little Italy.
Don't just smile at my hate.
I only know that. I'll only be able to recognize.
I'm just so sad that things couldn't have happened. Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to find it. Like, how else do you expect me to hunt this thing down? It's been so long.
I'm just sad that I, didn't have the chance to make the joke I wanted. I'll have to do a prono evens of it with, where it's frick, what's his name? Jack takes, PJ into, deep into Irish territory, and he's like, okay, I know you're, Italian, but you're not in the mafia, right? And PJ's just like, yeah, I'm not in the mafia. And so they, go and he's like, okay, just try to not act Italian. And, PJ opens his mouth to speak, and you know how Italians do that thing where, their hand is pinched? And,
like that. This is a live stream. You can't show things.
Oh! And, Jack just, slaps it down, no, he's not Italian. An Italian here? Impossible.
Oh, it was so good. It was such a great chapter. All of you guys, it was fantastic.
Oh, it's everything I wanted it to be and more, except less, because I wanted things to be okay.
Yep, this is it.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. I wrote a fanfic about this song once.
I remember that.
I liked it, but I deleted all traces of it because I was young and foolish. Oh, and it's in New York.
It is?
The Ellis Island.
Ah.
So, this song, it's called Little Italy, and it's, the rough translation is it's, the future boss of the mafia, and it's about you will live and you will die here. Basically, you're trapped here. You're trapped, because you are the boss, you are trapped to never leave these boundaries.
And then I think in the end he gets stabbed.
Yeah, let me find the translation. Do they have a translation? Yeah. I used to listen to this song a long time ago. And it sounds flipping awesome. I think this one had a... Hey Joel, Italian. I need captions.
Time to reveal that we were trash.
No, we're not revealing that. Okay, now I need Buonanotte all'Italia.
Time to reveal that I'm trash, I say after thinking up class specs for Mark, Will, and Dark earlier today. As if I'm not already trash.
All'Italia. This is one of my favorite songs. It's a very good lullaby. And so it'd be a very slow animatic. I love this song so much. Something about the moon. Something about lips. Whoa. I'm gonna have to check that out in a second. Also, as long as we're talking songs, anyway, I'd also, I don't know if I will, but I'd like to do both those songs. I like them both a lot. But I really used to be into multi-languages, which if you guys don't know what that is, it basically means you take a song and then you go, usually a Disney song, and then you like mash up all of the different translations of it, and I love them. They sound hecka cool.
No, you don't!
Yeah.
It's not there!
Yeah, it's APH. Dude, my first fandom, my worst fandom I ever was in. I cut off pretty much all ties of it. But this song, this particular specific video of this multi-language, back in the day, yeah. Back in the day, I was very much heta trash. Not really much anymore. Actually, not anymore. I tried to cut most of my ties with it, but yeah, I used to be.
I had a relapse just a little while ago, but it was really short.
Yeah. Anyway, I highly suggest, if you guys are curious, I can get you guys a link to this flipping multi-language, because it is probably the best multi-language. Except, oh, one other one. There's one other one I really love. See, and that's one thing. I liked Hetalia in concept, but not in how it was put. Like, the idea of personifying countries, that was really cool. But,
one was just summoned out of the void. Like, I knew he's been here for a while, but, like...
like, the concept was really cool, but I felt like the execution was not good. And I really like this one, too. Hold on, let me skip forward a bit. I don't know if I want to listen to the entire... Oh, no, don't full screen. Il y a tant de choses qu'on va sans les comprendre.
You know these really well. I never knew you knew these so well.
You didn't know that I could sing these?
No.
There was a time when I wanted to do this one specifically, We Are One, for an talent show. Okay, sorry. Enough with the flashbacks.
America is big.
Anyway, that's our live stream for today. I'm happy you guys could join us while we go down memory lane.
You guys missed the part where I came home from work and Becky was like, yeah, people were saying that I should really read the new chapter and stuff, and I was like, Becky, you do know it's called Antebellum, right? And she like just screamed no for like a minute or so.
Yeah, it's true. I hadn't really seen much of the promotional stuff. Now's a good time to bring this back. And by the way, if any of you guys want like links to multi-languages, I can hook you up. Remember this? Yeah. The sharp words. This is Videoception, by the way. This didn't happen, but I assume something like this will happen eventually. Good times. Me just thinking about, like, Against All Odds and... Man, this sucks.
This is a good time. Can I tell my story of how I found Against All Odds?
How?
So, I was like... first you got into Markiplier, like, really started, like, looking at stuff for Mark before I did. And then you started following and reblogging, and you did fan art for something of the artist in space. And so I checked out their art, and that's where I found the comic that they did Against All Odds. And then I, like, rifled through the archive of our own for Mark with a bunch of restrictions on it to try and keep as little Septiplier in it as possible. It didn't work very well, but I tried. And then Against All Odds came up again, and I was like, what is this thing? And then I got bored and desperate, and I read it, and I never regretted a second since. Like, I was hooked on, like, the first or second chapter.
She didn't talk about it until I started... Well, she never stopped talking about it, technically. But that's very sweet. That, like, actually makes me...
What?
Because that's one of my favorite things I've ever done, in that... The fact that... I don't know, you guys are, like, such cool people. That makes me feel really good.
What'd they say?
They said that they took some inspiration for it from the animatic.
Really?
Yeah. That makes me feel really good. Are you watching this right now on your laptop?
I've been watching it the entire time on my laptop.
Okay, now I promise we're done with the live stream. We're good. We've done the live stream. We're set. All right. If you're watching this right now, I hope that you are having a great time and you're having a good day. If you're watching this later, I also hope you're having a great day. And if you're not, remember that tomorrow is a new day. And thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for writing Against All Odds.
We can't see you waving your hand.
Bye. And if you want any links to any of those songs, I can hook you up.